Yeah.
This next project would really come in handy when I've got a long sprint at work where I'm just sitting hunched over my computer coding with bad posture and I forget to stand up and walk around once in a while. I'll let the team behind Remind take it away.
Hello, and thank you for being here. My name is Vishal, and these are my teammates Marius, Lou, and Emily, and we are the team behind Remind. Remind is a workplace wellness tracker that gives you the opportunity to achieve your wellness goals at work. Meet Jessica. Jessica is a graphic designer who sits at her computer working on exciting projects all day. She knows it's important to develop healthy workplace habits, such as taking time away from your screen. But often, she gets so enveloped in her work she forgets. Thankfully, Jessica started using Remind. Remind helps Jessica stay on track to develop healthy habits such as maintaining posture, staying hydrated, or taking more time to move throughout the day. Now, if you're wondering how Jessica stays on track to achieve her wellness goals, then Marius will talk more about Remind's notification system.
Thank you, Vishal. Jessica receives a notification to check her posture. Later on, she gets a heads up that her movement break is coming up. She hasn't quite finished the design, so she snoozes the break for 3 minutes. The pop-up appears again once she's completed the task. She accepts the break, kicking off a countdown timer. Jessica returns to work feeling refreshed. The workday ends, and Jessica looks at her dashboard to view her stats. She can see a daily or weekly breakdown of the sessions she completed and the minutes she spent on each type of break. Today, Jessica completed 2 mindfulness sessions, and for tomorrow, she decides to spend more time on being mindful. She also wants fewer hydration reminders. Jessica can set the preferences to fit her goals. We built Remind with Electron, React, Redux, Express, and Postgres. We also used Victory to render the dashboard charts. Here's Lou to tell you about the app's architecture.
Thank you, Marius. So as Marius mentioned, we use Electron. It's a pretty cool desktop framework. And what Electron allows us to do is it allows us to create a desktop user interface with web pages. It also allows us to leverage the operating system resources like notifications. And even though Electron is built on the Chromium web browser, we still had to make a few adjustments because it does not behave like a normal web browser. So we had to implement our own cookies to have user persistence in our server. And building our architecture, we had to think about how do we integrate the operating system Electron and a remote server and kind of combine them together so they work together. And so here is our diagram for architecture. And unlike a normal browser, Electron has multiple processes within itself. And so we have the main process here. It's kind of the core of the application, runs all the background tasks, and persists the life of the application. And those the render processes, this is a user interface the user sees and user can interact with, but they terminate as soon as the window is closed, unlike the main process, which persists. And through the main process, we can interact with the remote server for things like authentication. And we can also interact with our operating system through the file system and notifications. And so Emily will tell you how that relates to our app.
In our application, all of the network requests and timer logic are handled in the main process. The window a user sees is an instance of a renderer process, where React renders a user interface. Whenever a user changes their preferences or logs in, the request must go through the main process to reach the remote server. When a user receives a notification, we're leveraging Electron API, which gives us access to the native processes. We packaged our application and created an installer to distribute it. Our remotely hosted server persists users' data and keeps user systems from being bogged down by logging data over time. Here's Vishal to tell you where you can find our application and how to try it for yourself.
Thank you, Emily. If you'd like to find out more information about Remind, you can visit our GitHub page and download the application to use for yourselves. We hope you enjoy using Remind as much as we've enjoyed building it, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us here today.
Yeah, I found Remind to be a really impressive application. Something I like about it was the timing was really tricky to get the alerts just right, to be useful and not intrusive. And also that it's a desktop app, so it's running all the time whether or not you're using your browser. It doesn't have to be an open tab.
Yeah, and it can be kind of complex with all the different windows popping in and out and
Mhm.
keeping track of all those render processes that they talked about.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very powerful app.